So how is everyone? Very good. So this morning I had a very big crowd, and you're almost as loud as them, so let's try again. How is everyone? Perfect, good. So this morning I talked a lot about Lyme disease. Who of you attended or who didn't make it? Let's ask the other way around. So who didn't make it? Okay, so for you guys and also for the rest, I'm going to recap some of the stuff. It might take a few seconds, but then afterwards I want to have it a bit more interactive. So I'll quickly go over what I talked about this morning, and then you're free to ask all the questions, share your stories, whatever you want to do. Yeah? Good. So a few more seconds. So first of all, who here thinks he has Lyme, has someone in the family who has Lyme, who's struggling? Okay, that's already a fair bit. So as I told this morning, I myself was also struggling with Lyme. I was already a Lyme expert. I was lecturing at Ivy League universities. I was teaching doctors on how to treat it. And actually, you know, it was back in 2019. I was still in med school, but I was already lecturing at Ivy League universities. And basically, I came back and I did a routine lab test with Arm Labs. And, you know, I came back with a low CD56, 57 score. This is what I talked about this morning. It's part of our innate immune system. It's one of the most unspecific markers for chronic infections. But if that is low, it basically means your body's battling with something and can't deal with it. So if that's there, we know there's something going on. And I had a positive Lyme test, but I was totally fine. I was running 10Ks every day, and I thought, why the hell should I care? So here I was, and I actually, like, funnily enough, I came back from giving a talk, and I was giving a presentation about how antibiotics do not work. I was teaching attending physicians at Harvard why they don't work, especially in chronic cases, and how, you know, no one can actually get rid of Lyme just with antibiotics as soon as they reach the chronic state. But obviously that's not the case for me, right? So I took the 2 weeks antibiotics, and I didn't feel any difference. I just had side effects from the antibiotics, but I was fine. So a few months in, I actually had a common flu. I had a runny nose for 3 days, and 5 days later, my left arm started to get numb. And a small side fact, I was also a concert pianist by training. I studied the Salzburg Conservatory, and I wasn't able to play piano anymore. Then, very shortly after, my legs started to get numb. I called my fiancée several times a day and told her the same story over and over again, and I couldn't remember that I already told it to her. Then I got severe joint pains, all in a matter of weeks. I was deteriorating. I was deteriorating in front of everyone's eyes. And I got crippling clinical depression. And I thought, okay, yeah, that's probably it. I just have a burnout at a very young age, and I'm just getting crazy. I was a Lyme expert, but didn't connect the dots really much. I did a lab test, but unfortunately, like with a lot of people, in the latest stage of Lyme, all the lab tests will come back negative. But you have a clinical picture. The only thing that will come back as abnormal will be the CD56, 57. So there it was. I actually went to a psychosomatic hospital because I thought, okay, I'm just going crazy. And after 3 days, fortunately enough, they told me, actually, we don't think something is wrong up there. We actually think you're sick. So I went out, and I was in front of my father, and we were world leading specialists. Lyme, anything according to Lyme, Harvard was actually reaching out to us and referring patients to us. We were the experts, but we only see patients once it's already too late. We've never observed it firsthand. So I was the first patient that was basically deteriorating in front of the expert's eyes, in front of my own eyes, and I wouldn't have believed a single person what I went through at that time. So I obviously didn't want to get treated in my own hospital, especially when it has to do with a treatment where you have to lie naked in front of your employees and they have to put a catheter in you. But there I was, and I sat in front of my father and asked this one question: what the hell do I have to lose? I had nothing to lose. I was in the beginning of my 20s, and my life was basically over. From running 10Ks every day to being bedridden on morphine because of the pain, that was in a matter of weeks. I was basically a cripple. And from the outside, that's the meanest thing, I looked normal. I looked healthy. I had good color in my face. I was able to still participate every now and then. But Lyme also comes in cycles. So every 28 days, it flares up even more and more. And on the inside, I was actually dying. I thought, okay, that's it. If that continues 2 more months at the speed of deterioration, it will be over. Do we have it? Very good. Good. So I went to our treatment. I went into our hyperthermia. And for those of you who do not know, because you didn't attend this morning, one of the things we have proven or found out is that the spirochete is actually very sensitive to heat. So if we heat the body up to 106.8 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours, it's dead, mechanically dead. So here I was, and I was about to go into the hyperthermia treatment. And I can't explain it to a person who doesn't have Lyme. But when you have Lyme, your thoughts don't go in a straight line. They go through several relay points, and you can't clearly see your thoughts. This is why we refer to it as brain fog, because you can't clearly see it. So in this whole therapy, you're under a light anesthesia. So you will be asleep, you won't remember anything of it, but it's not general anesthesia, so you breathe on your own the whole time. It's very similar to what you do in a colonoscopy or gastroscopy. I woke up, I was still loopy from the medications that I received during the therapy. I opened my eyes, and I felt my thoughts were going in a straight line again. So I was on drugs, and I was thinking clearer than I did on that morning when I went into the treatment. And it's very interesting. I'm not going to lie to you. This treatment is no joke. You kill off all the bacteria at the same time. Maybe a lot of you have heard about Herxheimer reactions. This is a very, very severe Herxheimer reactions you will go through. I always tell to people, you will feel hit by a truck. That also went in reverse and hit you again. But it's worth it. Because once you're through this, your immune system also kickstarted again. The heat shock proteins created through the heat is also what will get your immune system to start working again. So let's do a quick recap on what I said this morning. Lyme is an invisible disease. No one sees it. Doctors, most of the time, do not believe you because they have nothing to do against it. So they can test for it with their normal regional labs. They don't test for the intricate part of the immune system, for example, what Dr. Kelly referred to. The lymphocyte transformation tests, or what we do with Armin Labs, ELI spots, or where we test for the dormant forms as well. So it's invisible. People look healthy, but they're very, very sick. And the people who have it, guys, you're not crazy. If a doctor tells you it's all in your head, remember what I said this morning. You have a comeback. Yes, it's in my head. There's a bacteria that is actually killing me. So, symptoms include you waking up and still feel as exhausted as when you went to bed, or probably even more. Then brain fog, or any unexplained symptom. So you have weird rashes no one can explain, or this pain that has basically no clinical reason. Abnormal, so normal test, but you feel abnormal. Tight feeling in the chest, without any apparent reason. All of that can be caused by Lyme. And especially when doctors tell you it's just all in your head, or it's just stress, or it's just a normal part of aging. There is no one who knows your body like you do. If you have the feeling that this is not normal, a doctor has to respect that. No one knows you as well as a doctor, as you do, especially no doctor. So you have a chronic inflammation, so you have a silent fire chronically burning inside of you. You have a whole inflammation cascade. I can go very deep into this, very scientific, but basically this chronic inflammation and the signaling, it's like a domino effect. As soon as we start it, as soon as we trigger it, it's very complicated to stop it. But this is what we specialize in. It comes to mitochondrial dysfunction. So you, first of all, do not produce as much energy anymore, and you have more reactive oxygen species, or something that we call free radicals, that cause more damage to your cells every single day, and you have less to actually balance it out. So you have a dwindling spiral that deteriorates further and further. The HPA axis, so the axis from the brain to the adrenals. The adrenal is that organ which creates the stress hormone cortisol that we need to actually get our body going, especially in the morning. If you wake up, you should be fully awake in a matter of 5 minutes. This is when the cortisol push happens. If you're not awake in the first 5 minutes, you know something's up with the brain-adrenal connection. We have something that I call the 4I syndrome. So we start with an infection. The infection will cause inflammation in the body. The chronic inflammation in the body will then cause an immune collapse. So your immune system is going to its knees. It's forced down to its knees. And once you're at the sickest stage, you will actually lose your identity because you're separated from the rest of your life. You will actually not be able to participate in life anymore and basically lose yourself. And ask any chronic Lyme patient. We have some people here that have been treated successfully at our hospital, not only John, but maybe someone wants to share later. Let's recap and then go back to it. So you have inflammation in the brain. This is what actually makes you sick. And with the blood-brain barrier in place, we can't actually, grab it easily. There is no immune system in the brain. There is nothing that we target. So once it's in there, very, very difficult to treat. So when your body's inflamed, and once this inflammation process is there, we have 40% less ATP in our cells. ATP is the currency of the mitochondria and the currency of our power in the cells. So if that goes down, you will have less energy. And we have 300% more free radicals, which damages the cells even further, and therefore you will have even less ATP. And it also affects NAD. NAD is part of this energy creation cycle, and basically it's like wood you store in order to actually chop it up later and put it into the fireplace. Once that is down and it will not be replenished, it's very hard for the body to produce ATP. So you will be in this dwindling spiral where you create less and less ATP and have more and more mitochondrial dysfunction. So why do doctors miss it? First of all, very, very bad testing. Most labs can't test, especially for these intricate parts of the immune system. And basically, the doctors are not trained. You're not trained in medical school to actually treat it. And if you have 5 minutes for a patient, there is no way at all to go deep into these systems. Even if I have 1 minute for a system, what the hell? No way to actually deal with it. So these are the different testing methods. I won't go into this, but basically, the standard tests are not good. There are a lot better tests, better alternatives on actually diagnosing patients. And very important, and for me, that's the most important thing, functional testing approaches. The most important person who can tell me more than a lab does is you. When you come to me, even with 100 pages of labs, I'm going to listen to you for an extended period of time. I want to go deep into your history to actually understand what you think is wrong with you. And based on that, I will gather all the information that we need to go further into it. And we have clinical testing approaches, so questionnaires about your symptoms, questionnaires on how long, how often, and they will give us a deep look into what we can do. And if we diagnose too late, this is what unfortunately happens. It makes it a lot more difficult, because then you have someone where all lab tests are negative, but now they're bedridden, and no one can find anything anymore, and no one believes them and sends them to a psych ward. So, what else? So, just remember, this is Borrelia burgdorferi, and it's a master of disguise. So all of these pictures represent the same thing. And what's most interesting is the part down here with I and J. This is what we call the persister forms with biofilms. So they're able to get the antigen representing outer shell and put them on the inside, so our immune system can't detect them anymore, and they wrap themselves in a lot of duct tape, we call them biofilms, so that they can't be attacked anymore. And they're very good at hijacking our communication signals. So even if we take an antibiotic that doesn't pass the blood-brain barrier, and you have Lyme in your joints, they use our interleukin-6 pathway, and interleukin-6 is like our little post office that we have in the body, where we tell someone, oh, there's an emergency going on, we need some new police officers. And with that, and this thing can pass the blood-brain barrier, they're informing the Lyme, so the Borrelia burgdorferi, that is sitting in the brain, to actually produce biofilms. So if we attack one thing, the other thing starts to react as well. And we have co-infections. Co-infections, Babesia, Bartonella, Rickettsia, Ehrlichia, a lot of viruses, chronic EBV reactivation, CMV activation. The list goes on and on. But why are they called co-infections? Each of them is an infection on its own. But they don't easily break out in healthy human beings. So only if there's an underlying immunosuppressant infection or an underlying disease, so also, let's say, cancer patients, they can reactivate these diseases easily. But in, let's say, healthy human beings, you need another underlying infection in about 95% of the cases. And isolated babesiosis, bartonellosis is very, very seldom. So due to this inflammation, the blood-brain barrier breaks down the tight junctions. There's basically like a little filter, a very, very fine filter, that doesn't let things into the brain, because remember, we don't have an immune system there. And if every bacteria could pass the blood-brain barrier, we would die pretty fast. So it's important to remember that once it's in there, there is no defense mechanism. This is why, even to this day today, things like meningitis, FSME, still kill patients, because you can't defend yourself up there. And the only patients that survive are because of antibiotic treatments and all sorts of intensive care medicine that actually does the defense for you. But patients with these diseases have no chance of surviving without modern medicine. So antibiotics alone, why do they fail? First of all, we have to understand how antibiotics work. Antibiotics do not work like most of you think. They're not a poison for the bacteria. They actually work on the reproductive mechanism. So bacteria divide themselves in the middle and basically duplicate themselves. And this is a process that we call mitosis. So we have the DNA, and the DNA duplicates, goes into 2 cells, and then they cut themselves in the middle, and you have now 2 new daughter cells. And on this exact replication mechanism, this is where most of the antibiotics work. So the antibiotics, we differentiate them between either DNA or RNA antibiotics, and they basically disrupt this reproduction. But we need the bacteria to reproduce for it. If we look at the common cold, the bacteria duplicates every 20 minutes. So every 20 minutes, you have double the bacteria than you had before. So you have 1 now, you have 2 in 20 minutes, 4, 8, 16, up the scale. And if I tell you that Lyme or Borrelia burgdorferi has been shown to lie dormant for up to 15 years without reproducing, very nice in their biofilms, wrapped up, neat in your brain, still producing the biotoxins, we would have to take antibiotics for 15 years straight, even if we ignore all the side effects. Just antibiotics alone, we would have to take them for 15 years. So then antibiotics, we have another differentiation. They either are intracellular or extracellular. So we need at least 2 antibiotics to actually go there. But these intracellular and extracellular do not necessarily pass the blood-brain barrier. So we need a third one to actually pass the blood-brain barrier. And by that point, you don't have any bacteria left in your gut. So I haven't seen a patient who took antibiotics for 15 years. The longest patient was 8 years straight on 3 different antibiotics by a doctor who thought, after 7 years of the medication not working, the 8th year will definitely make the change. This is a very, very complicated mechanism. They wrap themselves in biofilms that protect themselves. And we have something like the persister cells, so they're not reproducing. They can hide there, and they don't want to be, they don't want to be attacked. They actually don't want to be in us at all. Like Dr. Kelly said earlier, they want to be in horses, they want to be in mice. That's the right pH level, that's the right body temperature for them. They're just trying to survive us. And in the meantime, we're not surviving very well. So, the thing is, what you have to do, you have to target all the systems at once. These infections affect every little intricate part of your body. Your hormonal system, immune system, they create a lot of toxins, and you're getting more and more prone for other diseases. And basically, you get sicker and sicker every single time. So what do we do? Especially for Lyme, this treatment here is the only thing known right now to kill, once and for all, chronic Lyme disease. The Lyme is gone. We don't put it into remission. We're there to kill the thing. We cut its throat, and once it's out, it's out. Never to be seen again unless you get another infection. And why is that? It has been shown that at 41.6 degrees Celsius, so 106.8 degrees Fahrenheit, over the course of 2 hours, they die off mechanically. Actually, theoretically, we don't need antibiotics at all. We actually successfully treated several patients without antibiotics. So why do we still take antibiotics? First of all, we also have things called co-infections. We want to have a safety net just in case, because we will force all of them out of the brain. And all of them, if one would survive between the 2 therapies, because in the end, you will have 2 therapies, we don't want them to reproduce, create biofilms and everything, so we have everything set in place so they can't reproduce and they can't build biofilms. And in the worst patients, we actually grab into our shelf of a very low-dose chemotherapy out of the group of antibiotics. So some chemotherapies are actually antibiotics, called mitomycin C, which is the best-known biofilm ruptor out there. So we will inject you with mitomycin C at the highest peak temperature, And even in low doses, due to the heat increase, the efficacy and potency of the medication is improved much further. So this is why we call this treatment not just whole body hyperthermia, we call it antibiotic augmented thermoeradication. We create the deadliest environment for the spirochetes. And another good thing about it is due to the production of heat shock proteins, we actually kickstart your immune system as well. So even if you wouldn't have Lyme and just deal with immune deficiencies, we can use that to kickstart your immune system. Remember, this is something, we actually come out of oncology, so my father was a trained oncologist, a world-renowned oncologist actually, and we found this therapy by total serendipity. He actually had a cancer patient who also had Lyme, and he was one of the pioneers of whole body hyperthermia or hypothermia in general for cancer treatments. Now it's practiced all over the world in big university centers in the past few years, but it's all based on the research we did in our hospital. Everything that has to do with hyperthermia, we're there since day one. And in cancer patients, we actually can create more immune response, and the body detects the cancer better, we break down the cancer. And so the same mechanism that works in cancer, we also use in infectiology. And there was actually a Nobel Prize back in 1927 by Dr. Julius Wagner-Jaurek, who treated syphilis patients who came back from war. And syphilis is a very, very similar bacteria to Lyme disease. And we have to remember, back then there were no antibiotics. So what did he do? He wanted to create an artificial fever because, you know, when we're sick and we have a fever, afterwards we feel better, right? And then he took the blood from patients that were infected with malaria. And what does malaria do? It will give you severe fever spikes. The patients received it, got severe fever spikes, and were cured. They went out of, these were just 18 patients he treated. Out of these 18 patients who were already in a wheelchair, 16 came out of the wheelchair and were cured. The thing is, Treponema pallidum, that is the $5 word for the syphilis bacteria, actually is very, very simple compared to Borrelia burgdorferi. And it can very easily be treated, even in late stages nowadays, because it can't hide. It doesn't have this immune-evading properties. So, what are the other things that we do? We do, for co-infections, we use something we call the photodynamic therapy. That is intravenous UV laser treatment together with vitamin B2. It's a very bright, irradiating yellow substance. And basically, we put the UV light next to it in your blood, and that will shine all the way through, like a black light party, and we kill everything in there. So we also have apheresis, especially the HELP apheresis. HELP stands for heparin-induced extracorporeal LDL precipitation. And with that, especially after COVID, we found that this can filter out the spike proteins, because heparin irreversibly binds to spike protein. So once it's on there, it won't go away. And in this machine, unfortunately, the machine on here doesn't show the actual filters. So this is set up. There are a lot of hoses in the front of it. And one of these filters is actually a heparin filter. So we put a lot of heparin outside the body into your blood that is then filtered. So we put acid to it. It's very, very much like making cream cheese. We put acid into the plasma, then it will clot. We will filter that out. And in the end, we have a specialized filter that works like a magnet for the heparin we put in there. And on this heparin, we will have all the spike protein. And also all the inflammatory proteins. So we will reduce the inflammation by about 90% in a matter of one session. And we improve the microcirculation in the periphery by 300 to 800% over the next 48 hours. And for all these patients that have problems with their microbiome, we have something called the microbiome transfer. So people might know things about a fecal matter transplant. And we are not doing that. We did that for some short period of time. But there are things that no one talks about. There is donor rejection. It's very similar to when you receive an organ, you can reject that. And if I take the stool from another person and put it inside of you, you can also reject it. And there are also links with mental diseases that a person has from the gut. And now, for example, one person has OCD, I take his stool, give it to you, now you have OCD as well. And the research in microbiome therapy will advance a lot more over the next few years. But what we did is we collaborated with two very, very intelligent professors at high-ranking German universities and developed a microbiome solution, a living microbiome solution that we implant together with PRP in the gut lining while we do a colonoscopy and gastroscopy. And overnight, we basically reproduce a whole new microbiome. And obviously, there is a lot of mitochondrial support. We have IVs for that, tons and tons of IVs, and also intermittent hypoxic, hyperoxic training, altitude training. Then we have hyperbaric oxygen treatment. We have a lot up our sleeves. But all these tools in our arsenal have to be pulled at the right exact time. And only if we pull each in the right sequence for you, we will get you back to a normal state, or actually better than you've ever been. So, what kind of supplements would we suggest? So, my father has founded a supplement company back in 1998. Actually, Dr. Kelly might be interesting. The orthomolecular, so in Germany we call them orthomol, it comes from Germany, and the first recipes of that company comes from my father. And we had a lot of research done, especially in-house. So we have a big hospital. Our hospital has in total 70 beds. We have 22 doctors there, and we've always been renowned internationally. And he was very early into supplements. 1998 was very, very early for supplements. Or sorry, that was a lot earlier, 1994. And in 1998, he actually decided, okay, some of my patients react very well to supplements, and others are getting downhill very fast. And that's because supplement is not supplement. The same ingredient that you can buy over there will not create the same result as the one you buy over there. So with this company, he actually didn't want it to be sold. He actually just wanted it for his own patients he treated at his hospital. And he was going out to find the best producers with the best bioavailability. And this is what Nutridor is dedicated to. I am now the CEO of that company, and I buy things, when I buy one compound, I buy them in several tons of that compound. And I'm still higher, a lot higher, and I'm saying 300% higher from the purchasing price that other companies sell it for. And it's impossible to reach these prices because what they're using is simply garbage. Most of this, what you can buy out there, especially in the US, and I agree with you, it's very good that it's not regulated, because there are also some supplements, if they would regulate that, we could basically close down. But especially in the US, they're exploiting that. We're talking gym bros that sell supplements out of the basement, and some crazy people who just sell garbage. And even big companies that pretend or have just very good marketing can sell you shitty supplements. So this is what we're dedicated to, and we actually want to bring it over to the US. I took over the company in 2020, and I said, that we can't just have it for our patients, because all the people who go back to the US, they also want it, and there are a lot of people who would benefit from that. So mid of this year, we actually formed the American subsidiary right now, so we're just in the FDA registration process, and all our products will be available here. And all of them come from clinical research, so we test all formulations firsthand on our patients, on our employees. We do blood tests with them, I fine tweak them. In every product, there is tons of research. Obviously, you can't talk about all of that, especially, you're very regulated in what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say. The key players, especially for Lyme, would be a product that we call Optimmune. So that is very similar, how you call it in the US, or Orthoimmune. So we have over 40 herbs, minerals in there, vitamins. That would be your daily go-to to shield yourself from a lot of diseases. Green tea extract. Green tea is very, very underestimated. It is very good in biofilm disruption, actually one of the most potent things, but green tea is not green tea. It's not like you go into the next supermarket and just drink green tea. What we have here is green tea extract. With that, we norm it on 500 milligrams of EGCG, which is the active component in green tea extract. And it is one of the best things to actually kickstart the immune system and create something we call an oxidative balance. Then there's cat's claw, also another very, very potent supplement, where you have alkaloids in there, so specific plant chemicals that are very, very good at boosting the immune reaction. And it's basically another soldier that comes in and helps you at times when you need it. And also electrolytes, and this is something people do not talk about too often. You deplete in neurotransmitters every night. Every time when you're asleep, you first of all lose a lot of fluids, and second of all, you deplenish, is that the right word? So you deplete your neurotransmitters. So you have to restore them first thing in the morning. A lot of people grab an espresso, a cup of coffee, and you basically stop the production. You feel quickly better, but shortly afterwards, you're tired again. If you replace that with electrolytes in the morning, first thing in the morning, and avoid caffeine for the first 2 hours of the day, you will have a lot more energy and you won't have the 4 o'clock hole. There is nothing there anymore. Why? Okay, so that was the recap from this morning. Now I want to go a bit into some Q&A. If someone would like to share the story, I'll give my very unpopular opinion at times. So, does anyone want to start? Yeah. Yeah, so if we're just talking about biofilm disruption, we have NAC, we also have Artemisia annua. This, by the way, artemisinin, it's a secret weapon. But to find good artemisinin, this is our blockbuster. The thing is, I don't often talk about it, especially on stage. In Europe, it's basically totally forbidden. They try to forbid a very, very old, ancient plant because it's effective, not only for infectious diseases, but also for cancer. It's actually the supplement to take if you have cancer. And because it's too potent, all the working things, they try to get out of the line. So if you have biofilms, the agents I would go for would be NAC, Artemisia annua, myrrh can also have some effect on biofilms. Green tea extracts, yeah, there are a few we have up our sleeve. You don't necessarily have to take all of them at the same time, but NAC is definitely good, especially if you also have to activate the detox pathways. Good. Any other questions? Yes. No, 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 no. So the oncology treatment was already way before that. I can also give you a whole lecture on cancer therapy with hyperthermia, but basically because of the higher immune reaction afterwards, the body starts to detect the broken down tumors and starts to recognize it as a foreign body and starts to attack it. This is what we try with the most modern approach we call tumor vaccines, where we would take your tumor, put it to the lab, create a vaccine against your own tumor, inject you with it, and the tumor dies off in a matter of 48 hours. This, in theory, it works. We've seen it in animal models, but it depends about the mutation rate of the tumor. But this is what we do in the body. So we work with your immune system. We, first of all, try to treat the underlying issue, what caused the tumor in the first place. So we try to find what has caused the silent inflammation. It's not necessarily chronic infections. It can be, but it can also be environmental toxins, chronic stress. It can be high heavy metal load. Basically every cancer patient has a high heavy metal load. So this is what we target there. For cancer therapy, we also have something that we call the local hyperthermia, where we go to a lot higher temperature and actually fry the tumor. We actually go up to 47 degrees Celsius. Someone quickly have to do the math and convert it to Fahrenheit. And yeah, you really shrink the tumor very, very fast. And cancer approach, we are world renowned for that. We have very, very big names that we treat in our hospital, but we also have very normal people from all around the world. So multiple sclerosis is, in my case, very often falsely diagnosed. So just last week, I had a patient, a young girl, she's 29 years old, a clinical psychologist. She came to me in a wheelchair, and she actually said, you know, I can't participate in life anymore. I didn't stand up in about 3 years, and my life is basically over. She actually was about to go to assisted suicide in Switzerland. And I said, okay, let's have a look. We did take a full assay, and as in a lot of MS patients, we found Lyme. I treated her for Lyme, and 3 days after the first hyperthermia, she didn't even have the full treatment yet. She was standing for the first time. Then afterwards, so it was 1 day before the second hyperthermia, she was walking the first steps. You know, her muscles are atrophied, but still, she walked a few steps. She was crying, sobbing. I was in the room. I was visiting her and said, I know that you can walk. And she was walking without elevated heart rate, without anything. This is what we do on a weekly basis. This is what gets me going. I'm not in this for the money. I make my money somewhere else. I'm in this for the patient, especially after I was affected myself. This disease is a bastard. There's no other way for that, and you have to kill it. And I'm working mainly right now on a global scale. Right now I'm working together with universities to actually have a master degrees for doctors to actually learn the approach on how we treat things, how I think, how we think, because you're not taught how to do that. And if we're able to treat it on a global scale, that would be next level. Any other questions? Yeah. So, okay, so she was asking about hyperthermia because it's not available in the US, and in theory about sauna. The thing is, once you start with sauna, chronic or more infrared sauna, it definitely helps you with your Lyme symptoms. But if you ever were to stop it, wait, I have a slide on that. Okay, we don't have it anymore. Okay, this is also the reason why moderate hyperthermia is problematic, because you don't kill all of them. And once they go back into the persister state, they know what they have to hide from, and they produce tons of biofilms. We get a lot of patients that have been at other hyperthermia clinics that all of them do the lower temperature, or have the head sticking out. And you know, if you have Lyme in your brain, would be logical to also heat up your brain. And then they produce more and more biofilms, and they're not, you know, they're prepared for it. And we have to actually use the atom bombs. If someone comes and he already had some hyperthermia treatment, we have to use mitomycin C in all cases. So if you started with infrared sauna, don't stop with it, because you keep it in the normal spirochetal form at all times, and you push them out of the persisting form. This is what you'll achieve. When you're in a sauna and you reach this point where your body tells you, I have to get out right now, your core body temperature increased by about 0.5 Celsius, or that is about 1 degree Fahrenheit. It's not a lot. Your body likes homeostasis. The body likes to stay where it should be. So if you're actually in the sauna, you will not really affect them, but you'll push them out of this persister form, which will help you with neurological symptoms, but will not get rid of it. There's no treatment known besides whole body hyperthermia to actually kill it once and for all. The rest can only put it into a state of remission. Yeah. But a big fan of cold plunges. I actually trained with Wim Hof, and I'm a Wim Hof coach, so you'll find me in the winter in a cold plunge after I've broke the ice for 45 minutes watching a Netflix movie. So, yeah, a bit crazy, I know. Okay, any other question? Yeah, so the question was if Lyme can be transferred at birth from mother to child, and the simple answer is yes. Because especially the placenta is a tissue that Lyme loves. Especially on the child part, because it's very similar to the blood-brain barrier. We have these tight junctions there. You know, the circulation is connected but also separated. If you go into the science behind the placenta, it's one of the greatest thing on this planet, because you have one of the finest filters that we have on this that we can think about. And we pass nutrients, but we usually don't pass bacteria. And the child can have a different blood group than the mother, and it can actually be that dangerous that the child has a so different blood group that with the second child it could actually kill the mom at birth, because the blood of the child would theoretically cause so many clots in the body that the mother would stroke out. But it keeps it separate. But in these little tight junctions, this is where the spirochetes love it. They go through, they eat through, and then they're on the side of the child. And especially if you have a natural birth, and I'm a big advocate of natural births, there's a lot of blood involved, and usually the child conceives it as well. Long answer to a short question. Yeah. So that is a good question. So she was recently diagnosed with Lyme. She feels good, but she's positive. And she asks whether she will end up like I did. And the thing is, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is you have a sword on a silk thread above you. Theoretically, I don't know how competent your immune system is right now, so I would take a regular look on your CD56, 57. You don't have to test for Lyme every single time. That's way too expensive. Just do every 3 months a CD56, 57 score. If that number goes down or is already very low, get treatment. If that number is still high, and I'm talking above 100, then you're probably fine right now. Your immune system is on top of things. But if that number starts to go down, your immune system is not able to cope with it anymore. And then a simple infection like a cold, a common cold, could push you over the edge, could cause arthritis, muscle pain, and basically it could cause you to age overnight by 15, 20 years. But I hope that it's not in your future. Yeah. Yeah, so there are, especially, so there are connections of different viruses with cancer. There are different fungi with cancer, especially Candida. If we're talking about GI cancer, so colon cancer, pancreatic cancer, there's a lot of fungal infections going on. When we talk about all the blood cancers, so leukemia, Hodgkin lymphoma, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, we usually have some viral thing that can cause it. And there are also some bacteria that are known to at least increase the silent inflammation so much so that you're more prone to having cancer, and also parasites. And there's also one of the things as anti-cancer medication. Actually, my doctor thesis was about this. We are using anti-worm medications like ivermectin or like niclosamide, mebendazole, albendazole, because they target specific pathways in the cancer. It's not necessarily that there are worms in the patient. It can be, but these medications target the cancer itself and then make your immune system more competent in actually detecting them. And it's super interesting method, very cheap, very effective. Second question. Yes. Not hyperthermia. So they're liberated with the hyperthermia, but the actual star of the show is the HELP apheresis. So it's a blood cleanse similar to dialysis. We take your blood out. The blood is separated in its parts. So red part, white part. The red part will come back immediately. There is nothing in there. So we have the plasma. To the plasma, we add some acid. This acid will cause the inflammatory proteins to flock out. The heparin is added. The heparin, as a blood thinner, actually helps with the filtration of fats. But because this is one of the oldest methods of apheresis, but it works the best, and we have every machine in our house, every apheresis machine that you can think of. The oldest machine is the star here. And then the heparin binds to the spike protein and we filter it out. It's not necessary to filter out 100% of the spike protein. We only need it to go under a threshold so that you don't create microclots in your blood. We actually brought the best scientists to our hospital. So Dr. Beate Jäger was one of the leading scientists behind this. we got her to work at our place, and we are one of the 3 places in the world that can identify microclotting issues with a patented microscopy technology. We bought a very expensive microscope for $500,000, and it does its job. We see it in patients and can see when it's eliminated. Yeah? Yeah. 2-week Lyme treatment, 2-week post-COVID treatment, 1-week microbiome treatment. It depends on what you need. So not everyone needs everything, but these are the durations for the individual modules. Yeah. So this is very difficult. So we have to start at the point because we want, like Harvard was collaborating with us, and they wanted the treatment to be over there, and they have a very big facility with billions in research money. The thing is, chronic Lyme does not exist. The CDC does not recognize chronic Lyme. We have a disease that is called the post-treatment Lyme syndrome. It's a very arrogant way of saying, if our antibiotics didn't work, after 2 rounds, first of all, 2 weeks of doxycycline, then 4 weeks of metronidazole and ceftriaxone, obviously it can't be Lyme anymore. So it's like PTSD for that disease. We're acknowledging you're having something, but it's all in your head. Yeah. So we have to start with that being acknowledged. And I had a few patients who are personal friends with your president and with RFK, and they want to get me in contact this year with them personally to affect that issue. But now we're at the more difficult part, and so no applause yet. After it's recognized as a disease, then we have to go through the trials. And from the starting of trial for a medicinal product, it needs at least 5 years. At least 5 years for it to be established and allowed all over the US. That is what I'm trying to do. Believe me, I have a global plan. So the thing is, I'm not going in any conspiracy theories. We have to deal with what we have on hand. The reason why we have it, or where it came from. There are a lot of theories, and especially, a lot of people know this story behind Lab 257. There is some evidence that it theoretically comes out of a laboratory, but I just have to deal with it, and I have to treat what I have in front of me. If I also go into the whys and whatnots of what could be behind this, I would just be here doing philosophies all day and getting nowhere. I have to deal, or all the Lyme experts, we have to deal with what we have on our hands, and that's already more than enough. Yeah. 20, 30, 40, 50 years, congenital, and now they're in their 70s. Like, we've seen everything. Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so I'll refer to it has to be the last one because I'm already over time. Um, so basically, if we the program that we have is very, very tailored to the person. So there is, especially the Lyme treatment, you can basically do it, you know, that doesn't have to be tailor-made. Lyme, we dialed it down to this effective and working treatment. You only get some tailor-made IVs, but if you go through that, it works like a machine, and in the end, you're Lyme-free, number one. And the actual thing or the actual work is the recovery. That is now easy for us. We don't, you come to us and we send you home after 2-3 weeks. But this is where the actual work starts. And every patient has a 3 months aftercare program. So they have medicine where we with compounded hormones, bioidentical hormones, transdermal application routes, where we really affect every part that was destroyed by Lyme or by the chronic infection. If the person had mold, we have mold detox pathways or medications, for example, like cholestyramine, different sorts of binders. But I tell every patient, if they have a mold problem, while they're at our clinic, they should get their home remediated. But mold is only the secondary or tertiary problem. If you start targeting mold, if you start targeting hormones, if you target anything before you treat the triggering infection, you will get nowhere besides spending your money. And to all the people here, don't go and do stem cell treatments before you're done with the actual infection. You can take, I have patients who spend literally 1.5 million for several stem cell shots and brought them nothing. If you're actually done with the treatment and you really want to improve fast, that's the time where you take stem cells. Stem cells are amazing, but not if you still have moldy raspberries there, because you put all these new raspberries on top and everything will be moldy the next second. So I think I have to to finish right now. I'll have another presentation tonight. So one final question, and then we're done. Yeah. A what? Yes, it can be transmitted sexually. That has been proven in animal models several times. I can culture it out of sperm of infected men. I can culture it from the mucus of a... Yeah, that was one of the biggest discoveries in when we took a look, because every patient that comes back, believe me, we reviewed their file like 50 times. What went wrong? Where could they've been reinfected? And the biggest breakthrough was in 2016 when we found out, or actually talked to some of the researchers behind this. And the partners can be asymptomatic. They don't have anything, but they can reinfect the partner. So the partners receive something we call the partner treatment, where they only have 1 hyperthermia, 5 days of antibiotics, and that's it. Only if it breaks out and you're really symptomatic, then we need the bigger guns. Okay. Well, okay, last tiny question, else I'm going to be kicked off stage. Vaccine injuries, especially from COVID, can be effective with the apheresis treatment, very, very effectively. So I'll give you a little outlook on tonight. Tonight at 8, I have another presentation, which will actually be part 2 of this morning. So you just had another recap. I'm going to talk about all the things you can do at home to at least get you into a state of either remission or where you're able to stay on for some time. I just want to set the expectations here. These treatments that you can do at home won't get you cured. It will get you to a point where you can tolerate and go through life, possibly. But if you're really, really bad, they won't be your magical cure, but there's a lot that can be done. And especially when we talk about the thing that I call the SAD diet, the standard American diet. So I have to go now. I will see you either at my booth or tonight at the talk. And